So, rhythmic accuracy. If you're going to be playing syncopated rhythms, especially syncopated 16th note rhythms in styles like funk, you're going to have to catch those little offbeat 16th rhythms in the right place at the right time with accuracy. So today, let's look at a 4-bar groove that's going to force you into working on your rhythm, playing across beats and hitting those offbeats with consistent accuracy. This is groove number 53 from the second volume of the Groove Trainer course over at TalkingBass, and it sounds like this. So, on first listen, this might not sound like that tricky a groove. There aren't too many notes to play, and they're all spaced out quite nicely. But playing those offbeat 8th and 16th notes consistently with accuracy is not as simple as you might think. So, let's start with that first bar. Now, in terms of the actual notes, we've got C, G, C, then B, and back to G, okay? Very, very straightforward from a note perspective. But before we play those notes, we're going to have some rhythms to hook them onto. So first, let's try clapping them out slowly. We'll begin with 2 notes and then add 1 at a time. So for the first beat, we have hits on 1 and A. Okay, so think of 16th notes. 1E and A, 2E and A, 3E and A, 4E and A. So we've got 1E and A. We're hitting on 1 and then A. 1E and A. First and the fourth ones. 1E and A. That's where we're hitting, so 1E and A. And when you count that out, you want to tap your foot, or nod your head, or some physical representation of each beat. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1E and A, 2. Okay, so just get that down first. So the foot comes down, we clap at the same time, so 1E and, then we've got the A, so 1E and A. And then the foot comes down on 2. Okay, so we need a bit of independence for this. 1E and A2. 1E and A2. Okay? 1E and A2. If you can't get it because of the independence, just slow it right down. Even if you've got to, count it out as 1E and A2. As slow as you need to, and then you can just build up the speed. So 1E and A2. 1E and A2. So that second note on the A ties across the beat, and the next hit is on the and of 2. So we had 1E and A2 and. Okay, now I'm not counting 16th notes throughout the whole of the bar, 1E and a 2E and a 3 and a 4 and a, because it just gets a bit over the top, okay? So if you think of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, you only need to count the 16ths on the 16th note beat. So 1E and A2 and. Okay, 1E and A2 and. So we're hitting on that and. But remember, you gotta hit that foot as well. So think foot and the 1. So 1E and A2. So the foot comes down. 1E and A2 and. So we've just got this kind of interplay between the feet and the claps there. So 1E and A2 and. Then you can add the foot on 3. So 1E and A2 and 3. 1E and A2 and 3. This is how you build up the independence of your foot and your playing, because sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to keep that foot tapping when you're playing these kind of rhythms. With this, analytically approaching all the rhythms, you get to build up that independence. Next, we've got a hit on the and of 3. So 1E and A2 and 3 and. Okay, so that one's a little bit easier. So for 2 and 3 and, same rhythms in each beat. So the only 16th note to worry about so far is in the first beat. So 1E and A2 and 3 and then bring the foot down for 4. 1E and A2 and 3 and 4. And then for the final hit, we're on the E of beat 4. So it's going to be 4E. So 4E and A. Okay, so all of that together, 1E and A2 and 3 and 4E and A. Okay, see, this is where the accuracy comes in, because when we're doing playing the 16th notes or clapping the 16th notes, you've just got to be more accurate, because it's a kind of next level of accuracy beyond the 8th notes. So 4E and A. when you're just kind of trying to feel these kind of things sometimes, you know, if you've listened to it, you're trying to work it out off a record, something like that, you can sometimes quantize to the nearest eighth note or beat when you're working out these 16th notes. And I've had a ton of students in the past where I've given them fairly straightforward bass lines, but there's been a few little 16th notes in there, and they've kind of quantized towards the nearest stronger beat, and it just, you know, loses all the feel, and it's just plain wrong. So now we can try round and round slowly. And remember, after that, for E and we're going to be coming back in on the 1 with the clap. So 1 E and A, 2 and 3 and 4 E and A. 1 E and A, 2 and 3 and 4 E and A. 1. Okay? So it's just getting used to, you know, clapping on the foot and clapping between the foot and making sure that you're, you know, when you're between it, you're either on the and, you know, the 8th note or the 16th notes. Now, you might be watching this and thinking, man, why do we have to do all this clapping and this counting? And, you know, I just want to play, man. You know, that's probably what you're thinking at this point. But, you know, with riffs like this, where you've got these offbeat 16th notes, like I've said, you can end up quantizing to the nearest, you know, stronger beats. And by breaking it down and gaining that independence, you're then able to hook those notes on to the claps. Now, if you can't clap it, you have no chance of being able to play it, you know, with accuracy. If you can't clap it, you ain't going to be able to play it, you know, accurately. Now let's try hooking some notes onto those rhythms. So we're in the key of C, we start on a C, 3rd fret of the A string, and we work across G and C. So it's root, 5th root. So 3rd fret A string, 5th fret on the D and G string. Okay, that's your first 3 notes. Then we're going to come down to the B at the 4th fret of the G string, so this makes it a major 7 chord, so. And then back down to the G at the 5th fret of the D string. So that's the notes. And now let's try hooking those notes onto those rhythms. So we'll begin, just as we did before, just with the first 2 notes. So we're going to have 1 E and A. Okay, so that's C to the G. So with the foot, 1 E and A, 2. And then bring the foot down on that 2. So 1 E and A, 2. Just that to begin with. 1 E and A, 2. And keep that G held down. 1 E and A, 2. Again, 1 E and A, 2. Just building up that motion, that foot and those notes, okay? So the foot has got to relate to that. Don't, you know, tap the foot on the 8th note or the 16th note, you know. 1 E and A, 2. So you hit the G and the foot comes down. 1 E and A, 2. 1 E and A, 2. Next, let's add the C up on the top. So remember, this is on the and of the 2. So 1 E and A, 2 and 1 E and A, 2 and then bring the foot down on 3. 1 E and A, 2 and 3. 1 E and A, 2 and 3. Okay, the more you do this, the more independence you're going to build up. 1 E and A, 2 and 3. 1 E and A, 2 and 3. Now let's add the B, that 4th fret of the G string. So remember, this is going to be on the and of 3. So 1 E and A, 2 and 3 and 1 E and A, 2 and 3 and. And now let's just add that G on that E of the 4th beat. So very slowly. 1 E and A, 2 and 3 and 4 E and A. 1 E and A, 2 and 3 and 4 E and A. Next, try playing that slowly, still counting with the foot, but no verbalization. So we're not going to talk it, okay? Just do that in your head, or maybe even, you know, just with your mouth, but you don't want to be focusing too much on the verbalization. So with that, so 3, 4, and. Okay, so it's all relating back to that foot. You'll feel the foot coming down, you're hitting the C with it, then you're hitting the G, then the foot comes down straight after. Then you've got the C, you know, on the upbeat there, so foot, then that, foot, then the B, foot, and then the G. So relate all of this to the foot. That is how you keep your bearings. And once you can do that, no verbalization, then you can start to build up speed. So 3, 4. quicker. And you can just try building up speed, faster than we're going to play with the track. But the foot should be consistent. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll hear these notes moving around it. Now, before we go any further, it's worth mentioning that this groove is taken from the Groove Trainer course over at TalkingBass. That's 120 grooves working progressively from the absolute basics through to advanced 16th note funk lines. It's basically a roadmap for developing your bass playing. There are also a ton of extra lessons devoted to teaching you about technique, rhythm, and harmony. So it's a huge course built for those of you looking to progress by way of learning grooves. There's a 30% discount for this week during the big summer sale, so check it out by clicking the link below. And now, back to that groove. So once you've got that first bar under your fingers, you can count it right and you can just loop it. Then you can move on to the other bars, so the remaining 3 bars. So for the second bar, we have... So we've moved down to A flat. Okay, so 4th fret of the E string, and then we come up through the E flat and the A flat again. So again, it's root 5th octave. So 6th fret on the A and D string. Then up to the B flat. So that we're playing the 9th there. So that's at the the 8th fret of the D string. Then down to the E flat again, the 5th of the chord. So that's at the 6th fret of the A string. When you play through those notes, you can either play with the 1st finger, 3rd finger, 4th finger, and then move up, or you can joint bar with that 4th finger, just to make things a little bit more efficient. Then that leads us into this D minor 7 flat 5. We've got... So that's going to be the D and the F and the A flat there, 5th and 8th frets on the A string, and then the 6th fret on the D string. Then B flat, A flat, 8th fret, 6th fret on the D string. And then for the final bar, we come down through the G, D, and G. So that's going to be 5th fret on the D and A string, and then down to the 3rd fret of the E string. Now on that final bar, we come down, but instead of playing the extra 3rd and 4th beats there, we just hit on the 4th beat with the B, 2nd fret of the A string. So, and it just brings us back round to the C. So all of that together, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, take your time with this. Do not rush it. You really want to get that counting down so that everything is accurate. So do all of that at a slow tempo. Then as you start to build up speed and you've got all of those notes under your fingers, don't use clicks, don't use tracks, anything like that. Just get it down away from all the pressure. Eventually then, once you have it down, you can try with the track. So that's a little rhythm for you to work on. Remember to check out the big summer sale over at TalkingBass by clicking that link below, and then click here to check out another great funk groove from the course that will help with working on all aspects of your technique and rhythm. It's taken from the same Groove Trainer course, so go check it out, and I'll be back again tomorrow for another lesson. So see you then.